For the last 369 years, this imposing red sandstone fortress has stood firm, demonstrating the authority, power and magnanimity of our republic. With glorious history seeped within its ramparts, this bastion of supremacy housed the thrones of the rulers of Delhi. It was only after the formal end of Mughal Empire in 1857 the political centre moved out from this fort. From might of the rulers to their decline, from countless ceremonies coronating the royals to bloodbath within its walls, from witnessing the end of an era to the unfurling of joy and ecstasy, laying the foundation of an independent republic. Red Fort is a corpus of several narratives woven in one. One could only imagine the festivity in the air when this quarter witnessed procession of Shah Jahan, the fifth of Mughal Empire, who shifted capital back to Delhi in the year 1648. For next over 2 centuries, his progenies and successors ruled from this fort, carrying on the Mughal Empire till it declined. Shah Jahan's red sandstone marvel is even bigger in size than his grandfather Akbar's fortress in Agra and Sikandra. The foundation of this fort was laid on May the 2nd, year 1639, as per the account of 18th century court historian Samsam Ud-Daula. With the building of Red Fort that took 9 long years, 7th city of Delhi, Shahjahanabad, came into being.
I have a feeling, though often it is not always articulated, but I have a feeling that the idea was that first of all it had a aura of spirituality because lots of Sufi shrines were in this place. It also, in the Hindu tradition, it had this tradition that it was the ancient city of Indraprasth. And in fact, there's a location here close by called Nigambodh. That had a long spiritual association also. And of course, Delhi had been the capital of empires for many centuries. The Sultanate, the early Mughal also, Humayun had built a city here, a capital here. So it was associated with both power, temporal power as well as spiritual power.
This particular fort was called Qila'e Mubarak, that means the blessed fort. And later on, over the years, when the later Mughals came, they started calling it Qila'e Molla, or the exalted fort. And at that particular time, when Shah Jahan made it and his architects Hamid Lahori and Matmat Khan and all the people who were in charge of making it, they had most of the buildings except for the walls were plastered with thick white plaster, and on that there was gilding, golden work, decoration, and of course marble up to the dados and pietra dura, etc., etc. So it was not ready to look at. But by the time the later Mughals came, the polish and the plaster started wearing off. The later Mughals had no money.
Lal Qila, or Qila Mubarak as it was named by its builder empire Shah Jahan, was enclosed by the high walls housing the regal city within its 14 gates. As of today, 6 of them, Delhi Gate, Turkman Gate, Ajmeri Gate, Lahori Gate, Mori Gate and Kashmiri Gate, gives way inside an ever-busy and often claustrophobic lanes of what was once the decorated city of Shahjahanabad.
The Agra fort, where they had been his father and grandfather had been ruling from, became too small to accommodate the number of courtiers that were coming now. So they decided to shift to some place which was much bigger. The 10 years that it took for the fort to build, that was the 10 years it was given to the city also to build around it. All the nobles and the princes were given space to make their havelis and their palaces there.
Till the late 19th century, River Yamuna flew right behind the fort's rear walls. Today, Ring Road and large patch of green populates what was once the steady course of capital's river. Built at the cost of 60 lakhs in those days, this fort is often built to represent not just the socio-political zenith of the Mughal Empire, but also a cross-cultural influence. Its architectural style, the design of its gardens and several palaces within bears an imprint of not just Timurid and Persian style, but also European and an indigenous Indian one.
Like all Mughal architecture, it has Indian elements. It has those little chhatris that you see at the corners of the pavilions. It has, even the carving is a amalgam of different, sort of Indian and Persian styles. It also, interestingly, has a strong European flavor, and that European flavor, it started right from Shah Jahan's time.
The style chosen for this fort is often termed as Shah Jahani, a unique mix of imperial expression, rich design, texture and colors. The Red Fort in more than one way is a representation of skills of the workmen and masons across the country.
The Red Fort actually signifies a sort of a high point of Mughal architecture. That's, Shah Jahan is the high point of Mughal architecture. But more than that, what was achieved under Shah Jahan in a sort of aesthetic point of view is a formalism in Indian art also. There's a formalism. If you see the pictures of the darbars of Shah Jahan, you see the symmetry that is there. All the courtiers are arranged in a sort of a symmetry. And that symmetry was there even in the Red Fort, if you see. There's in one line you go from the emperor's palace to the throne to the Diwan-e-Aam where he has his main court to the main bazaar which leads out of the palace right into the city and the main road of the city also.
The imposing three-sectioned wall forms the perimeter of this red sandstone structure, which is irregular octagonal in design. On the top of its wall lay heavy crosswork ramparts, visible even from a sizable distance.
It's called a fort and you can see those ramparts and those kangura battlements on top and all that. It's not a great defensive structure. If you compare it with forts like, even in Delhi, like Tughlaqabad and Purana Kila, no, it's not that imposing. It was never probably meant to sort of keep out serious invaders. It was a sort of a encircling wall for the palace complex.
Chatta Chowk, or a covered bazaar, a vaulted arcade housing double-storied shops to add to the slice of history of the Red Fort. It was here the royal residents came out, shopped and hung out with their companions.
Chatta Bazaar that we called was modelled on a covered market that Shah Jahan had seen in Kabul. Chatta Bazaar was used by the princes and the princesses, and the things that were used in the Qila, those were the kind of materials and articles that were brought and kept by merchants in those shops and sold to the royal prince and princesses.
Straight after Chatta Chowk, we reach Naubat Khana or Nakar Khana, an entrance to Diwan-e-Aam separating the inner court from the outer one. Once upon a time, musicians of Delhi filled the air with their shehnais and drums.
So Nakar Khana was actually the drum house where on top musicians would be sitting, and I've been told by somebody from the Delhi Gharana that there was a special tune that was played here. It was called the Lal Qila Gat.
It was from this very Naubat Khana the announcement of the arrival of the emperor was made.
any noble who came to the Diwan-e-Aam, Diwan-e-Khas or to meet the emperor, they had to dismount, except for princes of the royal blood. They had to dismount at the Nakkar Khana, and from there they had to walk on foot. Nobles who had petitioned the emperor or who wanted to meet the emperor, they would be standing according to their rank, and then the Arsbegi, the person who announces, he would come and call them, and then they would enter the Diwan-e-Aam. And there was different stages, they call Adabgah. So from where they would, from the first one they would do the Cornish was that jhukke, kamar se jhukke, saat salam, then the next stage and so on. So the Arsbegi would tell them that ye pehli adabgah hai, ye dusri hai, and the third adabgah would be where the king was sitting under the throne, which is called the Takht-e-Zille-Ilahi. So when they reached there, then that would be the final, if he was lucky enough to reach there.
A part of Naubat Khana was destroyed by the British forces after they entered the fort, quelling 1857 Indian uprising.
As you enter the fort, for instance, from the Nakkar Khana coming, or from the Chatta Chowk coming to the Nakkar Khana, through that middle of that chalk there was a stream of water which went north-south down the middle of the street, and one end of the street used to go from the Delhi gate of the fort to Salimgarh, and that had that channel of water running through the middle. All that is now completely obliterated. We have no idea what it looked like. We have some rare photographs or some rare images which give us some idea of that.
Housed in the upper story of Naubat Khana, the Indian War Memorial Museum tells the tale of the bravery and valor of Indian soldiers who participated in the First and Second World Wars. Crossing Naubat Khana, we reach what will be termed as a sanctum of this fort, the Diwan-e-Aam, or the Hall of Public Audience. This is where the emperor and his ministers and wazir assembled and took the stock of the kingdom. From the foundation of a city to the decline of an era, the space within these arches have seen it all. The 9-arched rectangular hall of the Diwan-e-Aam houses the royal throne. It was here the ministers and nobles stood on their toes under these 27 square chambers taking the imperial orders.
As we enter Diwan-e-Aam, the where we are standing now, there are lawns. These used to be enclosures, and the last enclosure was called Gulal Badi. And it had we have these iron rails. That time they had silver rails around it with fountains, and not fountains, sorry. They had at that time they had silver rails with pinnacles on it, finials, jisko kalsi kehte hain. And as you come closer, the first thing that you see are the engraved arches. So this is called actually Shah Jahani arches, and it's one test of seeing whether this building was made by Shah Jahan or after him, because it's only in his reign and after his reign that you see these Shah Jahani arches. So the perfection of the Shah Jahani arches and the symmetry, again a mark of Shah Jahan's architecture, that everything will be in the center.
Placed under the marble canopy, the chamber is densely studded with breathtaking Pietrodura work on the marble stone. This 19th century painting by Ghulam Ali Khan relives the past glory of this magnificent balcony wall. Impeccably carved arches done with marble stones and minutely designed panel work by Austin de Bordeaux, infusing life into doves and flowers of no less than the paradise.
The marble throne, which was called the Takht-e-Zille-Ilahi, that means the throne of the shadow of God on earth, because that is what the rulers called themselves. They of course could not be God, but they were ruling in the name of God, so they were the shadow of God. So the Takht-e-Zille-Ilahi is beautifully decorated with flowers and Pietrodura, and it's very high, but it's not higher than the mimbar of the Jama Masjid. So when the Jama Masjid was made, the mimbar was kept higher, the Jama Masjid was kept slightly higher than the Qila, because of course Allah had to be given a higher status than the king. So Zille-Ilahi was lower.
Shah Jahan, when he was, he turned 60 years of age according to the lunar calendar. Then according to the religious law, he was exempted from keeping the Ramzan fast. And in lieu of that, he could give charity. And of course, he distributed a lot of charity, but he also decreed that an evening meal would be laid out every evening during Ramzan for all the poor people around. So that used to actually happen inside the Diwan-e-Aam. So it was put to a very different sort of use than what we usually hear.
The Diwan-e-Aam too was modified after British occupied the fort. While the barracks were built to house the military and sepoys, they made modifications, sometimes destroying the original design.
They decided to demolish all the symbols of Mughal power, because in their mind it was the Mughals who had risen against them in rebellion. And also they wanted to make sure that in case there was another rebellion, they had easy access to everything. In the process of that, they demolished about 80% of the fort, the buildings inside the fort, and they were trying to demolish everything. But then Lord Canning, who was in Punjab at that time, heard of it and he was horrified and he said, "You can't do that." So whatever little we have left of the Red Fort is thanks to Lord Canning. And then after that, the Diwan-e-Khas was used as a mess. They used the rest of it, something as the kitchen, something as the Choti Baithak where Jahan Ara used to live, which is today called the Mumtaz Mahal, I think, Mumtaz Mahal, and it's a museum, was used by them as a prison. So they just misused everything inside here.
Lying at the end of the fort, the string of palaces in the private quarters once overlooked the tranquil waters of the river Yamuna. Rang Mahal, Khas Mahal, Mumtaz Mahal, Diwan-e-Khas. These are the telling tale of its creator's ability to transform stones and gems into a creative genius having dialogue with its admirer.
So this place that we are standing in, this is the court of what would have been the emperor's own palace, the Imtiaz Mahal. And this would have been a big courtyard, a paved courtyard. The palace itself would have had an awning. It would have, sort of had water running through the middle. So all those, the courtyard and the surrounding rooms were all destroyed.
Once a water channel called Neher-e-Bihisht, or a stream of paradise, ran through it. The stream also flew through the Khas Mahal, another of Emperor's apartment, which led to an octagonal chamber used by him to give audience to public on the riverside.
Now the Neher-e-Bihisht is a unique concept that was devised inside the Red Fort, because water plays a very important part in Islam, in the sense that it is said कि जन्नत में नहरें होंगी और Neher-e-Bihisht जो है वहाँ की उसमें दूध की और शहद की नहरें होंगी वहाँ तो. So they built a stream in the Qila, which used to start from the Shah Burj. It was the water was pumped from the Yamuna, and the Shah Burj, in fact, it's still existing. Some of it, they had pipes which were named that which pipe went to which area, and the Neher-e-Bihisht starting from there went to each and every room of the Qila and the palace.
Another important apartment housing the palace of princes, the Mumtaz Mahal, today lives on as the Delhi Fort Museum. Begum Zeenat Mahal, wife of last Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar, was the last of the imperial queens to reside in this beautiful palace. To the innermost of this mighty fort lies the most beautiful of chambers, Diwan-e-Khas. It was here the emperor met his private audience, selected guests and ministers. Scribes and travelers have described in great details about the stream of paradise flowing underneath this highly ornamented hall of admiration.
And around him, only very, very special people would come and be able to talk to him and petition him. In later years, Bahadur Shah used to use it for reciting his ghazals. So, because there was nothing left for him to, he could neither receive petitions nor could he receive nazar also.
Another story which is associated with the Diwan-e-Khas is that when in 1857 the British recaptured Delhi, they drank the health of Queen Victoria in the Diwan-e-Khas as a sort of a celebration that they had captured Delhi and captured the Red Fort.
Once upon an era, under these pillars and arches studded with inlaid marble panels and floral pietra dura, rested the ultimate peacock throne. In the account of 17th century French traveller François Bernier, the famous throne stood on 6 massive feet of solid gold, sprinkled over with rubies, emeralds, diamonds and other precious stone, countless in numbers.
The Takht-e Murassa was made with all the jewels that were present inside the treasury. The jewels were not bought. They were already present in the treasury, such as the Kohinoor, and it cost double the amount of money that the Taj Mahal did.
The peacock throne, we actually have images. There was probably, has been more than one peacock throne. Later replicas also were made. But the peacock throne with the Kohinoor diamond and everything was apparently a great marvel.
It got the name of peacock throne because it had peacocks with huge pearls hanging from their beaks on the legs. So that is why it came to be known as a peacock, after the peacock sonnet.
We have great sort of descriptions of it as to how rich it was. It was gold and jewels and all those kind of things. And of course, the name peacock came from the fact that there was at least, some say 2 peacocks on either side and some say there was 1 peacock. So descriptions vary, but a peacock was certainly somewhere there.
The throne was eventually captured and taken away by the Persian raider Nadir Shah when he attacked Delhi in 1739. It has since been lost forever.
When he went from here, he took so much of plunder and riches from here that for 3 years his people did not have to pay tax. And one of the things that he took was the peacock throne, because he himself was very beguiled by the beauty of the peacock throne. Unfortunately, Nadir Shah was attacked and killed while he was camping somewhere. He was on one of his campaigns. The Takht-e Murassa, or the peacock throne, was there, and it was the tribes who had attacked him. They just broke it up in pieces and they took away whatever piece they could.
For reasons such as this, perhaps it's rightly inscribed inside Diwan-e-Khas. If a paradise be on the face of the earth, it is this, it is this. Several other quarters like Tasbih Khana, the chamber of the private prayers, and Khwabgah, the sleeping rooms of the emperors, lie close to Diwan-e-Khas. Another Shahjahan era structure, Hayat Bakhsh Bagh, survives today after it was partially destroyed by the British during 1857 rebellion.
Once a month there would be a sealing off of this area for the women, so that the women of the harem would come here. It was called Bagh Ka Zanana. And then there are descriptions in Bazm-e-Akhir and some of the books written in the late 1800s, where they've described how the girls would be here. There would be a color code decided that they had to wear this particular color, and gulgule pakte the, kadhaiyan chadhti thi, ladkiyan ped chadh rahi hain, dholak baj rahe hain, churiyan bik rahi hain. So it was like jaise aajkal ke mele hote hain, so that kind of mela, and ladies from Shahjahanabad, from the noble families, would also come and participate.
At its each end stands 2 white marble pavilions, Sawan and Bhadon, named after the Hindu months, another telling tale of Shahjahani style. Prominent among the later additions in the Red Fort is Moti Masjid, built by Shahjahan's son and successor Aurangzeb.
It's kind of, there's this little secret to it that I'd like to share with you, which is that if you look at it closely, it's a mosque which is set inside a box. And the reason for that is that when they started building the mosque, they of course realized that a mosque has to be aligned very closely to Mecca. And when they started building it, they realized that by aligning it to Mecca, they would put it out of symmetry with all the rest of the buildings that had already been built in the Red Fort. So what to do? So they made the mosque as it was supposed to be built, but they put it inside a box which aligned with the outer, what the rest of the buildings were. So therefore there's this slight mismatch in that mosque and the outer enclosing box.
Zafar Mahal. This red sandstone pavilion in the middle of Mehtab Bagh was built by Bahadur Shah Zafar in the year 1842, the last of the additions made by any Mughal ruler. It remains here as the lasting legacy of the Mughal Empire.